in the U.S., but based on what 8 News investigative reporter A.J. Legault has discovered, they may be in serious question here in the Commonwealth.
Over 1,000 people
showed up here to speak out against this crazy
The abortion ultrasound bills have generated the most headlines and protests during the 2012 General Assembly session.
Tell me what democracy looks like.
But voter fraud is also near the top of the list when it comes to most polarizing issues. Senate Bill 1 would require voters to present identification at the polls on Election Day, or else cast provisional ballots. GOP lawmakers, including bill sponsor Senator Steve Martin of Chesterfield, say it will help prevent election fraud.
It's designed to provide some confidence in the voting process by knowing that those people who are casting votes are in fact supposed to be casting votes.
But Democratic lawmakers have called it a blatant attempt to suppress votes, especially in the minority community.
This is simply an effort designed to discourage people from voting. It's a suppression of the fundamental right to vote.
In a press release by the Virginia Senate Democratic Caucus, Senator John Edwards of Roanoke, whom you just heard from in that phone interview, is quoted as saying, "There is no evidence of voter fraud. The likelihood of in-person voter fraud is about the same as being struck by lightning." Senator Henry Marsh of Richmond is also quoted. He says, "It's clear there is no real voter fraud being committed."
We wanted to put those statements to the truth test to determine if voter fraud is or is not a serious problem in Virginia. What we found raises serious questions. We've uncovered that in the wake of the 2008 election that saw Barack Obama take the White House, the Virginia State Board of Elections turned over to state police more than 900 allegations of voter fraud.
Using Freedom of Information requests, we obtained statistics from state police. They show in just Division 1, the greater Richmond area, officers investigated 200 voter fraud allegations. Of that, just 34 were ruled to be unfounded. Another 44 remain as active cases. What this means is state police found evidence of fraud on ballots cast by 122 voters. And that doesn't count these 2 other illegal voters busted in Louisa County. They were convicted criminals who lied on their voter applications, checking no where it asks if they've ever been convicted of a felony. Why were you so interested in going to vote in that election?
I guess just I was wanting Obama in there.
State Senator Tom Garrett, the former Louisa County Commonwealth's attorney, prosecuted those cases and has been one of the leading champions of tightening voter laws.
To say, oh, this just doesn't happen, you know, that's a head-in-the-sand sort of ostrich mentality. The fact of the matter is it does happen.
Voter fraud does appear to be happening, but what we found is not always happening. Prosecutors going after the ballot box cheats.
Remember those 122 cases where state police found evidence of fraud on ballots? In 106 of those cases, prosecutors declined to prosecute, a point Senator Edwards is quick to point out.
How can they say there was voter fraud unless the prosecutor decides to prosecute?
The vast majority, 73 of those decisions not to press charges, were made by Richmond Commonwealth's attorney Michael Herring, a Democrat. That fact has Republican lawmakers raising eyebrows.
Though the state police took the case to them, said that the case is clear, and yet not prosecute, that's troubling.
We've reached out to Herring. He declined our request for an interview, but said he'd be happy to talk after the April grand jury meets, where he says he's decided to present 12 voter fraud cases. Now, if you're saying, what's the big deal? A few hundred votes doesn't matter.
I'm confident to announce today that I'm going to be the next Attorney General of Virginia.
Consider this. When Governor Bob McDonnell ran for Attorney General in 2005, that contest was decided by a little more than 300 votes.
Will requiring voters to show an ID before casting a ballot actually cut down on fraud? That remains to be seen. The voter ID bill is still sitting on Governor McDonnell's desk, waiting for him to either sign or veto. In Richmond, A.J. Legault, 8 News.
If you have a story you'd like AJ to investigate, send him an email to ajinvestigates@WRIC.com. You can also find him on Facebook.